Well, one of the primary roles of North Star is to assist our churches to maximize their ministry potential, their mission, and to assist them to be as healthy and effective as they possibly can. When we were forming North Star years ago, it wasn't done in a vacuum. It really was a result of 2 years of just listening to local churches in this region and letting them tell us what they needed from a local organization. And over again, we heard the number one thing we kept hearing is just help us to have healthy staffs, healthy pastors, healthy ministers, and help our churches to be healthy. And it'd be great to have an organization that understood this region, that could develop organic strategies for us and would be able to assist us to just find good practice. And one thing we discovered is there's few things that are more critical for the health of a church is the investment in a good sabbatical policy. And there's few things ministers can do for themselves to assure their own spiritual growth, their mental health, and their physical well-being, and their personal well-being as well, as setting aside that time and investing themselves into a period of sabbatical. It's an important component of personal growth. When I took my first sabbatical, I wasn't too sure about it, and I almost had to be pushed to do it. And I didn't realize until I was about 3 weeks into my sabbatical how bad I needed one. And it was toward the end of my sabbatical that I actually began thinking about what I would do on my next sabbatical to be more productive, and it was something I could really look forward to. Now we're going to hear from some of the ministers of North Star churches and hear a little bit about what their experience was when it came to sabbatical.
You just get tired. I remember getting up in the pulpit early on in my ministry, being really excited about what I had to say on Sunday morning. Couldn't wait to get up and share with my congregation the message God laid on my heart. But when you do that for 25 years, day in and day out, it gets kind of old.
Most pastors are on call 24/7. And even on your day off, sometimes you have funerals and weddings and emergencies. And over a period of time, you can just get tired emotionally and spiritually. So I think these sabbaticals are a good break.
You do have limits. And a failure to recognize those limits is a recipe for inevitable disaster. And once I discovered those limits, I found ways to take better care of myself and as a consequence have the requisite energy and joy in what I was doing. And it wasn't that I didn't enjoy it, I just had a kind of low grade or ambient weariness that wouldn't go away. I wasn't depressed, I wasn't unhappy, I loved my church, we were having good times, we were doing good things, but I simply didn't have anything left in the tank. And when I was able to go on sabbatical and then recognize after the first, it took almost a month and a half to even recognize how weary I had become. Then I was able to, as they say, recharge my batteries after I got some rest.
I would say 8 weeks would be a minimum. What I've heard other people say is you want to be out about 8 to 12 weeks. And I think 8 weeks was good for me.
I would strongly recommend that they take 2 months away from their responsibilities as often as is reasonable. Pastors have an unfortunate tendency to imagine that no one can get along without them. But it actually comes as a kind of spiritual and psychological relief to discover that they can. And once you've been made aware of that, then it really releases you from that sense of burden that pastors sometimes cultivate.
The way the congregation supported me in this is the fact that we all knew that after 5 years I would take my sabbatical. So the congregation ended up putting money aside in the church budget every year for those 5 years. So when the 5 years was up and I went on sabbatical and we had an interim pastor, the church was not caught financially in a bind.
We talked about it a lot. This was a new concept to the congregation. And so through the deacons, we started to prepare the congregation several months in advance.
The more intentional you can be about the process, the better it is, because what that says is that the church is validating the process, that we're not coming to this through the back door, but that we are establishing up front the significance of sabbatical and investing not only financial resources, but the blessing of the church in the process.
It helped us to have quality time with each other. And when I was at home during the sabbatical, I was not preoccupied with church issues because somebody else was taking care of them. So I could really focus on my family and really be present with them. And I was at home with them at night instead of being at committee meetings and emergencies and all of those kinds of things. So we just had a good time together and kind of renewed our acquaintances with each other, and that was good.
I think the main thing is that for 25 years I had not been taking care of myself. I had been focusing so much on meeting the needs of other people that I didn't take care of me. I wasn't getting the sleep that I needed. I wasn't getting the exercise that I needed. I was definitely not eating right. I think the first thing that comes to mind is that I was able to get some extended rest, more so than you would get during a vacation period. It helped me to clear my mind and get away from ministry for an extended period of time. One of my colleagues describes it as getting the cobwebs out, and that's a helpful analogy to me.
I felt good. I was rested and relaxed, and I was ready to get back to work. I had that energy back. I thoroughly enjoyed having the quality time with my family. But yet I was ready to get back to work when it was over.
The 6 months away from the church gave me the scope to rest and go do things that were just beneficial to me both mentally and physically. I still do the practices I began out of my sabbatical. And they were simple, but they were vital to feeling good and having the kind of energy that was necessary.
And it gave me a chance to step back from ministry and recharge my batteries and become more intentional in my ministry and my messages and kind of start from a new slate.
And I think sabbatical, when you're able to really take that in a meaningful way, it does refresh you so that by the end of that time, you're ready to come back.
But the sabbatical radically reordered my capacity to do the things that had to be done. And it was amazing to recognize how tired I really was. And the rest period, the getting away from the demands of ministry, doing other things that have been of interest to me for some time, that was very helpful. And coming back, I had so much more energy. In fact, I hadn't had that much energy in a very, very long time. And I have to say that the church has flourished in the wake of that sabbatical.
I really would. I think it's important for a pastor and staff members to have a break from their regular day-by-day church responsibilities to get renewed and refreshed and reconnect with God in a special way, have some devotional time, prayer time, and do some other things that will help them in their creativity and in their ministry. So yes, I do recommend it.
One of the things we like to do is model for our churches. Sabbaticals, like I said, we've had that for the ministers for a long time, but it's really impressive to me that we have a sabbatical policy for administrative as well. No, I think the personal, spiritual retreat time away with God alone was most important for me. It did allow me to refocus a little bit on my ministry skills as well and to make some changes with that when I came back.
More than just being an organization that says, hey, you ought to take a sabbatical or have a sabbatical policy. We also say, as a family of churches, as a network of churches, we think this is so important, and your church is so important to us, that we will also invest with you in that sabbatical. No one goes into the ministry expecting that they're going to have a 40-hour job. They've committed to more than that, and everyone I've ever met in ministry certainly is on about a 54-hour normal work week, and many far more than that. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's good, but that's just their passion and commitment to the congregation. And that's why we need to take every opportunity we can to help them find means to rest and to recreate and to renew themselves.